Welcome back to another episode of Jacksonville Buzz's Making a Difference, where my co-host Rodney and I interview people doing fabulous things in the community. This morning we have Troy Pepito from Genuine Spirits Company. Good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
I'm great. Before we start rolling in the interview, I do want to take a quick second to thank both of you gentlemen for your service to our great country. If I ever find a military guy wearing that hat in a bar, I usually buy him a beer. But now I might need to consider buying an April 1 bourbon whiskey. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, good morning, Troy. I'm Rodney. I was a Navy nurse years ago, and I'm interested. How did you get started in this business that you're having now?
So,
well, you guys are. In
I was
the
a
Navy.
home brewer.
You know how
Navy.
bourbon.
So
You
both
do know
Navy.
how bourbon works. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
love
so
me
I
some
was a
bourbon.
home brewer. I was stationed in Sicily, and there was no craft beers. It's kind of during the craft beer boom going on, and I knew how to make it, so I started making. Was providing beer to everybody in housing, and then transitioned into some wine. I became friends with some winemakers. Learned that part of the industry and started brokering for them with the Navy exchanges overseas. Came back stateside, worked for a distillery, and then just things kind of blew up from there.
Now, are you guys based in Jacksonville?
I'm based in Jacksonville, but my operation's completely hands-off. So I do a lot of blending
Very cool.
of the barrels. So all our operation is done with our partner veteran distillery, Copper Sky, in Longmont, Colorado. So they do all the heavy lifting.
So explain to us the term bourbon. I always heard that was from Kentucky. What are the rules on that?
Yeah, so there's a few other rules for bourbon. So it's got to be in new oak barrels. A lot of misconception is that it has to be made in Kentucky. So a lot of purists say it's not bourbon unless it's in Kentucky, but by legal standards in America, it just has to be made in America. It's like Scotch is from Scotland, Irish whiskey's from Ireland, and cognac is from France. So we own the bourbon in America.
So it's an American thing, the term
It's an American
bourbon.
thing,
Okay.
correct.
And you can only use the barrel once.
Only use it once, correct.
I am of Scottish descent, and my father and I have had this conversation ad nauseum, where they actually take the barrels that bourbon was made of and send it to Scotland to make Scotch.
Correct.
Why can you only use? Because I love me an old fashioned. Why can you only use the barrel once?
I don't know the exact reason why to use it once, but I think a lot of it goes back into the rules of making sure that it's a pure whiskey. So back in the day, the bootleggers used to cut it, and it was kind of more of a safety thing to make sure bad alcohol wasn't getting distributed out into the masses. So they were like, hey, use a brand new oak barrel, do that. And there was other rules that had to go along, and I could go into it for days on all the rules that have to happen. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of how I understand it.
So explain to us your business plan now, where you are and what you plan to do with your company and your people.
So the company right now, we're doing a lot of looking into veteran transitions. I've worked with a couple transitioning individuals that come out of service that are interested in getting in the beverage industry. Anywhere from, hey, I want to be a distiller, I want to be a brewer, to, hey, just sales and marketing aspects of the business. So I bring them in and say, hey, this is kind of what it looks like. This is what we do. And some of them have determined, like, yeah, this is awesome. I want to continue to do this. Or they're like, okay, I'm glad I was able to sit down and kind of learn the back side of the industry. Because a lot of people see the industry and it's, the romance of the wine and you see all the tastings. But then when you get into how does that wine and whiskey get to the shelf,
Profitably.
Profitably,
Right.
yeah. And there's a little bit more work behind it, but other than just doing tasting events.
That is absolutely
Excellent.
that is it is just fascinating. The people that we have a unique opportunity to interview on this show, it goes all over the place. This is just a neat thing to talk about, in all sincerity. So with veteran-owned business, it sounds as though not only obviously are you providing a beverage that you're selling for a profit because you are a for-profit company, that's okay and that's fair, but you're also providing transition from, I lovingly refer to it, from the battlefield to the boardroom, if you will.
Correct.
Those skill sets, growing up in an Army family, I can iron a pair of pants that will stand on their own, and I know exactly how to get up early in the morning, and a lot of that discipline came from that opportunity. Yeah. Those are skills that often veterans don't understand are valuable. My brother serves in the U.S. Army now, to this day, so hi, Rick. He'll get me for that one later. But he's got a lot of skill sets. Right? His team has a lot of skill sets. As we take it away, as kind of a last wrap-up question, on your business model for those veterans, what do you do to help them transfer their skill sets from battlefield to bourbon room?
Oh, yeah. So it's really just the lingo, kind of say, hey, this is what you did in service. This is what they call it. How do you say it in civilian terminology? And really, it's just trying to say, hey, yes, you worked in for
SOPs.
instance, yeah, or medical field. You said you were, and just say, hey, this is what I did here. This is what I can do on the civilian side. This is how they meet together, and this is the same thing. So there's a lot of that transition that goes on for, especially in contract writing to anything.
That's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was
having me.
really an honor and pleasure to hear not only what you're doing in the spirits industry, but then also what you're doing for the veterans. And so really cool. And again, to both of you gents sitting here with me, we can't do this without your service, so thank you. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Making a Difference. Consider supporting a veteran business. If you like us, share us. Remember, live with gratitude.